Okay, so week 13 has now come and gone, and we just saw some of the weirdest games that I personally have seen in a hot minute, so let's get right into them. It finally happened. Weeks and weeks and weeks of agony have finally disappeared. We got a truly great Thursday game, and credit to Seattle for making it happen. Eugene, Cyrell, Smith III, and DK just played the best games of their careers. They matched arguably the best offense and hottest QB in football, blow for blow. Pause from the first play to the last, and they lost. Now, Dallas obviously has just decimated every bad team, most bad teams they've played this year, and I know the Seahawks aren't the Carolina Panthers, but the Cowboys were expected to take care of business pretty comfortably, so watching the Hawks come in with a game plan to single out the NFC Defensive Player of the Month in the first half that worked was unexpected but welcomed. It's such a shame that the Cowboys offense is pretty good. Seattle's defense couldn't do anything. They did absolutely nothing at all. This game had no punts, which made for great football, but from a Seattle fan's perspective, it could not have been easy to digest the fact that your defense just gave away your offense's best performance of the year, and now a playoff spot is looking more and more grim, especially with this team potentially decaying from within. The Seahawks showed so much adversity after their incident on Thanksgiving, and I'd love to see how this game would have played out if Charbonnet picked up this fourth down, but whatever, reality's what we got, and at least Dallas showed some backbone against a decent-ish team, so take that for what you will, I guess. First of all, what the I would say this was the weirdest game of the week, but that title easily goes to another game we'll get to in a few minutes. Even with Jonathan Taylor hurt, this game was still supposed to just be a normal Titans vs. Colts game, right? Derrick Henry and Zach Moss back and forth, and the game very likely could have just finished as a 13-10 slugfest. But no. No. That didn't happen. Well, at least later on it didn't. Derrick Henry in December is still one of the most unstoppable forces in the known realm, but eventually he got hurt, and I guess with that, we saw one of the most confusing sequences ever, with a block punt for a touchdown, then a pick 2 on the 2-point conversion, and then another blocked punt with the punter already shattered in 2 to set the Colts up for free points. Now, obviously with a chance to ice the game, the Colts just so, all of a sudden, Will Levis has a chance. If the maestro of mayonnaise finds a way to go down the field, the Titans can take a lead with a touchdown, and he did just that, a beam to D-Hop, and Tennessee took the lead. Or, they would have, but the missed the extra point. You gotta respect it, right? The Titans are so loyal to the script, and the Colts also did their duty. When it looked like Josh Downs might pick up a first down here, a big 73 Blake Freeland dropped the hammer on his own man because it, why not? I don't even know what I'm watching anymore, but we keep moving forward into the final installment of this thing, and the one and only guy to ice this game, it had to be Alec Pierce, right? No other man would have been appropriate, with Michael Pittman finishing off the drive with a game-winning touchdown after the Pierce catch. Colts win, and my God, they're actually going to make the playoffs. I can't believe it. They're already in right now, and imagine if they had that Browns win from earlier in the season when the refs robbed them. They would be like a playoff lock at this point. The Colts are a solid NFL team. What even is life anymore? In my ever-so-flawed eyes, this was the most interesting game of the week to me in the early slate of games. With the Saints still beyond injured and the Lions struggling, this game could have been a Lions blowout or a running slogfest, and it was sort of a combination of the two, I guess. The Lions looked like the best team in football for 7 minutes, and they were up 21-0. The pitchforks were out, and Dennis Allen's life seemed to be in serious doubt, but then the Lions started lioning and lioned way too much. Mathematically, it doesn't add up, but I guess this 33-year-old Mormon is the key to the Saints offense. I've always been on Team Taysom Hill, but I never thought this man would be this effective. And with the Saints offense getting more aggressive, this became a real game. Goff started playing bad again, and then Derek Carr got hurt in about 4 different areas at that. But hold on a minute. Derek Carr injured, backup coming in. You know who that is? It's Jameis Winston time, baby. Jameis Winston comes into the game and immediately throws it into double coverage. That was an easy interception, but whatever. He threw it up and he got it. But that was actually kind of the extent of the devouring of W's that the Saints had. They basically ran out of gas, and Dan Campbell's nutsack was a little bit too much. And, you know, it's scary, but this Lions team is starting to remind me a little bit too much of last year's Vikings team. They have just been the king of the ugly win all year long, which is, it's great and all until mid-January comes. Then it historically hasn't held up super well for teams like them. Oh, Jesus, Russ. This was supposed to be the game where the entire NFL is forced to look at the Broncos as a semi-real team. They've been quietly solid for weeks now, and against a team you're going to be competing with for a wild card spot, you folded in half, and then in half again. The first half was a masterclass in incompetence. It was like they were right back into their weeks 1 through 4 mode, getting outgained by a singular man. That is pathetic. But meanwhile, while Denver searched for some source of energy in the second half, Houston shut down themselves. 96 total net yards is unacceptable in the second half. I know Tank Dell died, but hell, the only time they scored was because of a Russ turnover. These were two low-level AFC teams playing in possibly a game that would decide which one of these two would make the playoffs, and they both just shit themselves. I don't know what to say for Denver, though. The defense is playing hard, I think. Hell, the team is playing hard, but the talent isn't there. I mean, take a step back and look at yourselves for a second. This is a veteran-filled team, old dudes everywhere, and you lost a playoff spot, probably, to an up-and-coming team full of younglings. So, although this loss does hurt, I mean, what did you expect? Russ doesn't have that same magic he once had, and instead it's looking like the Texans are going to have the luxury to lose to Kansas City or Miami in the wild card. So, although that would have been nice, you're just going to have to keep moving forward, Denver.
I just can't do it. I can't take this no more, man.
You know, actually, sorry, my bad. I said I'd chill out on the Chargers rants last week and the week before, so I will. But I was really hoping the Chargers would actually lose this game. They would have no choice but to fire Brandon Staley if this was a loss. Instead, the New England Patriots have just continued to plunge forward in their quest for Caleb Williams, and Lord, they're putting up a fight for that number 1 pick. 0 points, boys? Wow. You've truly outdone yourselves, and the funniest part is, the defense for New England has actually been balling. Despite the Patriots' season-long injury list looking like it's their terms and conditions, Bill still has it, and out-schemed Kellen Moore all game long, and with help from Herbert's weapons, they only allowed 6 points all game long. And lost. I don't know what else to say. This might be the worst game of the season in terms of entertainment value if you're not just looking for a good laugh. But this is also a game where the winner leaves pissed and the loser is probably happier. So that's Patriots football.
That's too easy.
This game had all the potential in the world to be a disaster for the Commanders. Historically bad secondary plus historically good receiver equals a show. And yeah, show this was. Tyreek's first bomb ended the game, and then Nagasaki came anyways. But Washington fans saw this coming. They either turned off the game in the first quarter or sat there and sulked with a bottle of Jack Daniels and questioned human existence for 60 minutes. I mean, Tua's Tua against bad teams, Tyreek is Tyreek, and Waddle and A-Chain and the other guys are pretty fast. So what else do you want me to say? At least the Dolphins are actually looking like they might have a chance at the 1 seed, but I also believe that loss to Kansas City earlier in the season might just be a huge factor in deciding who's going to be playing at home in the AFC Championship game, if it comes to that. But that's pretty far down the road at this point. Who let this game happen, man? Who let this game ever even be a plausible matchup on the goddamn schedule? Arthur Smith versus Nathaniel Hackett. Desmond Ridder versus Tim Boyle. I mean, Trevor Siemian. Man, I can't do this. The game was close for the entire affair, but it never felt like it at all. This one had 0 positive takeaways for the Jets. They're pretty much eliminated from the playoffs unless the miracle of reincarnation takes place, and although this game meant a lot for Atlanta, all they had to do was complete the one task needed to beat the Jets. Score a singular touchdown. And they somehow managed to do that early on, and the game just instantly ended when that happened. What can be said about the Jets that hasn't already? Everyone is probably to blame equally, but the sad reality is their season ended when we all thought it did back in week 1. That was just the football gods f***ing with Jets fans, giving them a win for false hope, and since Rodgers fell victim to the most dangerous stadium in sports, that was the season.
Nobody panic! Nobody panic!
Yeah, I'm not super surprised. The Matt Canada post-nut clarity started to kick in pretty damn fast. Yes, Kenny Pickett getting injured was massive, obviously, but let's not act like the Steelers were playing perfectly before that. Bad snaps, Najee couldn't get a few yards on 3 carries inside the 10-yard line. The O-line collapsed multiple times too, contributing in both a poor run game and partly Pickett's injury, but f*** all that. You lost to the Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals came into your own lawn and beat the shit out of you. Just embarrassing. But like I said earlier in the Titans game, this was admittedly the weirdest game probably of the entire season. The weather delays made momentum a non-factor on Sunday, and nothing went right for Pittsburgh. The injury total continues to grow, with Minka coming back to work for a few minutes before breaking his wrist, and he did finish the game, but it also just ended about 3 hours in real time before the actual game officially ended, with the Cardinals' 99-yard touchdown drive, once again proving this team has perfected the ancient art of playing down to competition. The Steelers just Steelered again. Nothing more needs to be said.
I love you, and I miss you.
If anything should be taken away from this game, it's this. If Mike Evans wasn't just a Hall of Fame level player, the Bucs, with a roster about 8 times as talented as the Panthers, would have actually lost this game. Mike Evans is a grown man, and he's put the offense on his back all year long, but the scary part is, I could seriously make the argument this was Tampa Bay's worst game of the season. Injuries, and more injuries, yes, obviously, but I don't care. It's the fucking Carolina Panthers. But somehow, it's the same conclusion every week. I say damn near nothing positive about the Saints, Falcons, and Bucs, and at the end of the day, we look up at the standings, dreading that one of these walking hemorrhoids is going to sneak into the tournament. End me.
Oh, Lord!
I was so excited for this game. You don't understand how hype I was. Do you see this man? Oh yeah, that Super Bowl MVP Joe Flacco playing football in 2023, and it couldn't have been more glorious. We got the full Flacco experience. Great throws that made Browns fans question if he was twice as good as Cosby, and then he heard the fans' compliments and said, all right, well, watch this then, and then threw some of the worst passes known to man. He's such a football enigma. I love it. A truly fascinating player at every level, and you know, there's only so much you can say negative towards Cleveland at this point. I've been giving injuries out as a free pass to many teams, but Cleveland truly is above all of them, and that's not a good thing. This team has been injured to hell and back about 4 or 5 times, and things aren't getting any better. With Myles Garrett on a limited snap count and still so many pieces on both sides of the ball injured, the Rams were able to simply outlast, out-scheme, and out-talent Cleveland in the end. If Cooper Kupp's injury decided to stop bothering him at any time during this game, this could have honestly gotten far away from Cleveland, but LA will settle for a mediocre win anyways and hold on to their delusional hopes of making any noise in the wild card.
Yep.
So, I thought this would be a 49ers win, but are you kidding me? A 40-piece? That is... I don't have any words. I don't know if I've ever seen a contender as apparently immortal as Philly just get dismantled to the level we just witnessed for San Fran. In Philly. Early on, the game was actually going pretty well for them, but the Eagles missed out on crucial opportunities. Jalen Hurts held onto the ball for an oddly long amount of time, and in a heavyweight playoff atmosphere like this, you can't wait around and take field goals. Eventually, the mistakes are going to catch up to you, and boy did they. The 49ers decided to wake up, and the Eagles decided to stop tackling. San Francisco went right down the field and scored, and then scored, and then scored, and then scored, and then scored. Jalen Hurts got a little hurt, ejections on both sides, back-breaking penalties from Philly, and an empty stadium. It was all terrible for them. There was amazingly 0 positives I could find for Philly after the first quarter, but maybe this isn't the end of the world. Yes, Philly just got thoroughly outplayed by the Niners, and it's clear that San Francisco is now the better team, but as long as the Eagles can hold a 1-game advantage over them by the end of the season, they're still going to have home field advantage, and come late January, I think that this game will make that NFC Championship matchup all the more spicier. I loved this game. I loved it. It was perfect. perfect. The Packers executed their game plan flawlessly. 2 drives, 1 from each team, took up the entire quarter, and with the Packers scoring whenever they wanted, somehow, at that rate, the Chiefs were just going to run out of time on the clock. So when Mahomes started doing things as he tends to do, LaFleur adjusted and began leaning more on Jordan Love to make plays, and my God, make plays he did. I feel like I've done a solid job of giving him credit over the past 3 weeks in a row, but this was the best game of his career to me, after last week was also the best game of his career. With the lights shining the brightest, playing the Super Bowl champions, Jordan Love looked like a dangerous quarterback, and someone the Chiefs genuinely feared and wanted to keep the ball out of his hands. Eventually, though, the Packers cooled off, but luckily the Chiefs' offense still has 0 weapons outside of the big kill, so the Packers defense got stops when they needed to, and add that on to the Chiefs actually getting scammed by the refs, that is how the Packers were able to pull this upset off. Incredible work, Green Bay. Just 2 weeks ago, you were in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, and now look at you. You're beating the Chiefs. Well done. And for Kansas City, things are about to get really scary. For the first time in many, many years, you could be looking at a future playoff route that doesn't involve games in Arrowhead throughout the AFC, which I know I said the opposite about the Dolphins, but if you keep dropping these games, it is going to get really hairy in late January. What? 3 great primetime games? Is this even allowed? But I guess I'm not complaining, though. Jake Browning versus Trevor Lawrence was an instant Monday night classic. Jake looked very comfortable after the first drive and went back and forth with Trevor Lawrence for the entire game. However, there were a few factors at play that weren't in Cincinnati's favor. 1, Evan McPherson doinked a field goal. 2, Josh Allen still exists. And 3, Zach Taylor has some intrinsic desire to force trick plays down the Jaguars' throat, and after the first one failed, in came a hot and steamy Tyler Boyd pick that led to a massive Jags touchdown. But just when it looked like the Jaguars had this game in the bag with momentum on their side, he went down. Silence engulfed the stadium. Without Trevor Lawrence, there is no team. There is no franchise. This organization lives and dies with this man. Luckily, it seems like it's not as significant as initially believed, but only time will tell. And meanwhile, Browning vs. Beathard was the headline, and it was so much fun. Each defense was playing just bad enough to make things enjoyable, and it turns out both teams' missed field goals were massive in deciding the outcome of this game. With an even score, we went into overtime, where CJ Beathard didn't immediately score a touchdown, and if you give Jake Browning the ball back, it's like blood in the water. And the Bengals were able to get into Money Mac range and called game. Wow. Are the Bengals back in the playoff race? No. I am not ready to have that conversation yet. I need to see another week of Jake Browning looking even below average to get to that point. Before we go, you know what time it is. The Tubfrog Discord Awards, where you all vote on what you thought were the best and worst plays, players, and teams from Week 13. And if you want to be a part of the voting process, then join the Discord server. The link is in the description. And I post the polls every Monday immediately after the game. So, without further ado, you said the best play from Week 13 was DK Metcalf's breakaway 75-yard touchdown versus the Cowboys, and his incredible 3-touchdown performance that helped Seattle only lose by a few points, I guess. And then the best game from Week 13 was also, surprisingly to me, not even close. Seahawks versus Cowboys ran away with it, but I can get behind that, I guess. And the best player performance went to Jordan Love, who showed up to play some football versus the Chiefs, and possibly had a career-defining game. And then, the worst team performance. It's not even funny anymore. It's constantly the Jets and Patriots swapping places over and over again. And I guess it was the Patriots' turn this week. Even without Mac Jones out there, they somehow looked worse than ever before. And the worst individual performance? Guess who? Tim Boyle. The Jets had to find a way to get on one of these worst polls, I guess, and they managed to do it. And finally, I asked you what your favorite onion was, and it was a close battle. Truly, a hard-fought war, but the Green Onion did it. Congratulations. Truly one of the greatest underdog comebacks of all time. I doubted it, but it got it done. Anyways, if you like this video, then subscribe, because I got a lot of videos on the channel just like this one. And thanks to all my Patreons for pledging $1. It truly does mean a lot. But if you like this video, then watch this video right here that I just made on the tragic career of Robert Griffin III. It's pretty good, trust me. Anyways, until next time.